The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Monday in the Riv, another exciting week after the heat wave week.
And it's still a heat wave from what it looks like.
Yeah, it's still going to be pretty warm. I mean, even this week, they said it's going to be better, but I think it's going to be like 88, 89,
yeah, it's going to be 88, 89. You know.
So it's going to be about the same. Looks like we're in for a hot summer.
Tomorrow.
Oh, wait a minute. Global warming, global warming.
That's right.
That's it. They're going to use this for a big excuse.
Today and tomorrow and Wednesday, there's going to be very low humidity. So the heat will be just the heat. It won't be that heat factor. But what was interesting, you know, your global warming. I heard 4th Congressional District Representative Jake Auchincloss on the radio.
Oh, yeah?
Now, what did they just say last week about fossil fuels and carbon footprints and...
Well, they've been saying so much about that. They
right.
eliminate everything.
They were there for green energy. Remember? Green energy.
Green.
Yeah, green energy. Well, Jake Auchincloss said that we need to make the United States energy independent. We need to stop picking up the phone to call the Saudis.
Well, that's anti-Joe.
So, wait, it gets even better. And then he says, and we need to be able to transition over to natural gas. Isn't that a fossil fuel?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to transition. He says, and we need to make sure that clean energy, wind energy, solar energy, geothermal energy is used in our country. But we need to keep that natural gas.
Yeah, well...
And what have we been saying?
Yeah, well, listen.
And then you've got a governor that wants to get rid of gas altogether in Massachusetts in the next 5 years.
Look, this guy is a typical Newtonian. He likes to be, he's a freshman congressman, but he loves to babble. Anywhere down here, he never saw a camera. He should take a page from Keating's book. He might last longer. Because Keating's been there for how many years and nobody even remembers him because you never see him.
And you never hear from him.
He just goes and gets his paycheck and disappears. Makes his deals, gets reelected, and flies under the radar. This guy's attached himself to Biden. If Biden stopped short getting off the plane, Auchincloss, they would have had to remove him. Because it would have been like a suppository.
That's it.
So the fact is that this guy likes to ingratiate himself to anybody that's got a little bit of power or he thinks he's going to get some news.
That sounds like another state rep we have. Yeah,
this guy is looking to make a career out of politics.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. This guy is just promoting himself, and like you said, he makes, you know, he might be a new mini Joe Biden. Biden attached himself to any cause or anything that was fashionable during that period. If you look at his career, he was actually pro-segregation.
Right.
Now he's anti-segregation. Anything, he's been on the wrong side of every foreign policy decision in the last 50 years. Auchincloss looks like he's going to be the same thing. He's sitting there behind here talking about the Green New Deal, which, by the way, will not work. I mean, nobody's saying we shouldn't have forms of clean energy, but the reality is everybody knows, number one, you can't do that because Sri Lanka's country's collapsed. Europe is collapsing because they went almost all green. And then nobody talks about the fact that when they make all those charging stations, if they ever made them, they run on fossil fuel.
That's right.
They run on fossil fuel.
At this point,
and as you said in your flush, they polluted the planet 10 times more than any one of us could do in 5 years.
Right.
But Biden coming here.
Exactly.
2 cargo planes, a 747, gas-powered SUVs, a caravan of gas-powered. Look, this is the hypocritical lie they forced around you. They're hypocrites. They're all making money. They all bought, semiconductor, like Paul Pelosi. They buy green new energy stuff. I saw some guy that was supposed to be an expert on the field. He said, listen, if they took all the batteries in the world and put them together and everybody used their electricity simultaneously, we would have enough energy to last 75 seconds. It's a virtual impossibility. Like, I saw some guy that had half a brain actually just said, look, solar panels work in places where it's sunny most of the time. Wind power works where there's wind a lot. These things, they've been proven to be inefficient and unreliable.
Well, and when we look back at what happened to Texas, as I brought up in the flush, okay? Cold weather,
Yep.
icy
Yep.
weather, froze over the windmills, the snow covered the solar panels, and they were lost.
Yeah,
They were freezing.
everybody was.
They had no water, no sewer, no toilets, no electricity, no heat, nothing.
They were in a state of emergency.
Exactly, for 3 days.
Yep.
For 3 days.
Yep.
And we have the same situation here in Massachusetts. Okay, although, if you listen to them, global warming, maybe we won't have it. But, I mean, when we get hit with a snowstorm in this area, we get hit with a snowstorm.
They're talking about global warming and the heat waves and stuff. And then I saw on somebody that actually, on shows that actually report actual facts and data, this isn't even close to being the worst period we've ever experienced. That's
Right.
the way the climate goes. They said 350,000 people died in 2003, in 2003. 350,000, that's the most deaths ever from heat-associated deaths. And nobody was talking about climate change in 2003.
Right.
So, we had an ice age, we've had, climate catastrophes, everything's cyclical. If it wasn't, we wouldn't be here. We'd be all hiding in a cave from the T-Rexes.
Yep.
Because variations in climate are something that happen.
And we're not saying that all of these fossil fuel gases, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, the smoke that gets kicked in the air, is more carbon in the air, isn't doing something to our environment. We're not saying that. We're not saying that at all. We know it's doing something to our environment because, remember, in some places, when it rained, for a long time, we had acid rain. Remember? We had acid rain from all the pollution that was put in the air.
Joe's got oil rain.
Right. Joe had oil rain.
Cancer and asthma from oil rain.
Exactly. So, you have to look at this. And then you've got Mnuchin. I brought him up in my weekend flush. Manchin, who is totally against the Green New Deal. Why? Because his state is coal. That's what they deal.
Yeah, of course. Well, look, Manchin is looking at, we need a balance in everything. That's
Exactly.
the reality. We need a balance. Nobody's saying that, but it's the hypocrisy of the progressives and the climate wackos who don't worry about the climate anyway. Look at Kerry. Kerry flies around in this because he's so important. He has to pollute the atmosphere. But look, they're hypocrites. They can't get rid of the old solar panels now because they got all kinds of toxic chemicals in them.
Right.
They got carcinogens and everything else. This is what they wanted to clean up the planet. They created solar panels that you have to have a hazardous materials dump to get rid of them.
How about the electric vehicles?
And the electric vehicles will be the same thing. But
I guess in Paris it is. They've got a junkyard that just has.
But it shows.
all those vehicles?
Yeah. You know what shows their hypocrisy. And how powerful the media and these people are at manipulating the narrative. That's how they got everybody to wear a mask, lying about data. If they were really that worried, let's be honest. If you're really worried about pollution and this planet, why would you only apply that to the United States?
Right.
They're not talking about China, the biggest polluter on the planet, the second largest polluter, India. They're not talking about them. They're going to let them pollute as long as they want, because China's got a lot of money and they're afraid of China, frankly. The thing is that this is the hypocrisy of it. We're going to save the planet by taking one country in the world and making it totally green. You know how stupid that is? You know how stupid that is? It's like saying if you got one town in Massachusetts that's totally green, we've saved the planet. One country. They want to make us 100% while they're allowing these countries, they're getting worse. China's putting out more stuff.
Right.
And they're producing almost all the solar panels, almost all the computer chips.
And India, with all of the outsourcing they do for other countries, their data centers are using up megawatts, gigawatts of power. Yeah. And that has to be generated somehow. And what do they use to generate it? Gas, oil, and coal. Yeah. If they're not using solar.
You know, the best thing they ever came up with for that was nuclear power. Now they had a couple of nuclear issues, and then they panicked, and now they didn't want to use it. But the reality is, with fossil fuels, nuclear power, green energy, you need a balance, because look, I mean, you watch Buttigieg on TV. He's an imbecile. They ask him a question, and it's like, well, we don't, it's going to take us like 100 years to get all the stations up, but we don't care.
Imagine what he would have liked as president.
Just go out and buy an electric car. Shut up. And then he says, to show how out of touch these people are, it's a class war, as we always say, like with housing and everything else. Hey, suffering's good. Let the people suffer during a transition, because it'll make them transition quicker. No, it won't. No, it won't. I mean, you're taking everybody's money away anyway. They never stop lying. Before I came here, I was watching. I was watching Yellen lie her butt off about inflation. Now what they're doing is changing the definition of inflation now. And then after she got done, they had about 25 economists completely eviscerate her, because what she was saying was an absolute lie. And this is what they do. They create a narrative about everything, and they convince the people, because in the United States they control the media. And you know, it's just hypocritical, and that's what bothers me. Listen, you want to put solar panels on your house, go ahead. You know, but don't tell me I have to have an electric car. You want me to save the planet while China is just, they don't even care about it. They don't care about anything except China and its expansion. And it's a hypocrisy that's disturbing, and the people are beginning to wake up in this country.
Right. Well, you know, you're talking about how we control the media. Nothing like Pravda, right?
Pravda, that's right.
Nothing like Pravda. I mean, and that's what we have. We just don't call it that.
Yeah.
But that's what we have. You know, it's interesting you brought up housing. I want to shift the focus a little bit.
Let's segue over.
I read a report on the effects of market rate housing on low-income communities.
Oh, there's hundreds of those. I read a few.
Yeah.
They're very disturbing.
They are. They are. So what did I do with it?
You put it up.
I've read it, and it's been making its way around the social media.
Good.
And people are going to start looking, but you know what? I don't think that you're going to, for every one of those reports that I found 2 reports glorifying it. Interestingly enough, one of those 2 reports is always by a developer.
Yeah.
So we know where these are coming from. But when I read reports, I don't read something from Fox News or CNN. I read reports from quality researchers. Yeah. You know, like Purdue University.
You mean like the
Columbia.
research we saw on TIFFs from Cornell?
Yes,
and
exactly.
Major universities?
Right.
Yeah, I understand, because I think at that meeting we had,
yep,
I brought up 3 or 4 reports, and the woman who was running this thing said, "Oh, can I see one of them?" No. I mean, look, the reality is, listen, glorifying market rate housing. I'm not saying market rate housing isn't good, but it's only good in certain places. There is no absolute, no ubiquitous answer for anything. In low-income communities, and it doesn't work at all because people can't afford it. In communities where there's a population that can't afford it, it still adversely affects low-income people.
Yes, it
does. That's what all those reports say.
Exactly.
And that's the problem. It's just like when Eddie Lambert used to get a study from UMass Dartmouth. Remember, everything he did, he got a study. I'm going to go get a study.
And who does he work for
And
now?
ironically, every study came out the way he wanted it to come out. Wow, what a surprise. You're paying for a study, it ends up the way you want it. And then where was his first job when he left the mayoral job? UMass.
Yeah.
With doing in that department, doing studies. So quid pro quo. You make a boatload of money. I have a study on everything. Let's study the effect of fire ants in Fall River. I think we got with 2 fire ants were found in Fall River. Let's do a study, and we make money on it. But like you said, there's tons of studies, but the one factor that I see throughout, even the ones that are and of course those are the rich people,
right,
the developers, and most of them are financed by developers. But the one thing it has is that it has an adverse impact on low-income people. But the reality is that dynamic has actually changed. It's having an adverse impact on virtually everyone that isn't rich now. Because remember the stat that everybody's forgotten already because it came out 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they're not really publicizing that one. They don't talk about it. 2 out of every 3 people in the United States are living paycheck to paycheck. And when you're living paycheck to paycheck, you can't afford, a 45 or 60% increase in your rent.
Right.
And so, this is a major issue everywhere in the country. Helena Folks, this woman who is running for governor in Rhode Island, has made part of her campaign platform that she is guaranteeing 20,000 affordable housing units in the state of Rhode Island.
Yep.
Now, that means from the state, you're going to get 20,000 units. And individual cities are working on affordable units. So they are addressing the problem.
Imagine that, though.
Everywhere
the smallest state in the
except
union.
where?
The smallest state in the union is doing this.
Yeah.
Okay? But Massachusetts is saying, we want market rate housing. So here in Fall River, we say, let them move to New Bedford or Brockton. Ken Fiola. Allegedly said. Now Massachusetts is saying, let them move to Rhode Island. Let them move to Florida. Florida's turned around saying, we don't want you. The governor of Florida just said to the Northerners coming down, we don't want you. Because what did they do? They brought the rent increases down there. They were going up already. Yep. But when they started coming down, the New Yorkers especially, says he doesn't want, the rents almost doubled overnight. And people in Florida, which, by the way, most of the communities in Florida are low-income communities.
And elderly. Fixed-income people.
Exactly, fixed income. And they can't afford to live there anymore. Because one thing they don't have is a lot of public housing.
Yeah.
They don't.
No.
So, I mean, you move to Florida if you were a state retiree, if you were a city retiree, if you were a Jewish diamond seller, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's when you move to Florida. Or you're a former politician, or a current politician.
Then you can move anywhere you want. Maybe Martha's Vineyard in a 24-acre state and make $1 billion and charge $400,000 for your speaking fees.
Exactly.
So, but look, again, here is the hypocrisy of politicians everywhere, but especially in Massachusetts. As you said, They're pushing market rate housing. But the gubernatorial candidate in Massachusetts, Maura Healey, said to a room, entire convention, conference room of people from retirement boards throughout the state at the Macros convention, people from the boards and the people from the state. She told them that the biggest crisis we have in Massachusetts is an unaffordability of housing. The unaffordability of housing. She said that is going to be a priority in her administration. So do you see the conflict there? On one rate, behind the scenes, they're pushing. All the rich people are pushing. But now when they're running for office, they know the people are feeling the squeeze, so they're going to appeal to the people. And once they get in, they're going to go, don't worry about it. The hell with that affordable housing. That's right. See you later. See you later. Bye. I also read something while we're on that stuff about one of our state reps was talking about the billions of dollars we have in surplus.
Yes.
You think that maybe if they really cared about the people, some of those billions, not millions, billions with a B, would be used to try to help people pay their rents and create some housing that the average person in the state of Massachusetts could afford?
Not only that, don't try to sell this, because I know that our state representatives have done it. Don't try to sell that you're doing something to offset some of the costs by giving people a $250 tax rebate. But that's only if you make more than $38,000 a year. If you make less than that, you don't get it. The people who need it are the people making less than $38,000 a year. The people who need it most are the people making $24,000 a year. And those same state representatives voted down raising the no tax status amount of money.
Yeah.
They wanted to make it equal to what the federal government does. And well, that's what the governor wanted to do, but they said no. The Democrats did this, and I want to remind people, okay? The Democrats have always been supposedly on your side. They supposedly are working for you. But when we see the votes that they take in their history, it just doesn't work. It doesn't pan out. I mean, right now you've got states tearing down monuments to General Lee, Robert E. Lee, all these people. Guess what? They were all Democrats. Why are you taking them down? They're Democrats. They're what you want. John Wilkes Booth, Democrat. Killed a Republican president. Okay? The Democrats fought diligently to keep slavery in place.
And segregated schools.
And segregated schools, yes.
Just as a little aside there.
Yes, nope, they did. And then you've got them saying, oh, we're all for Black Lives Matter. And these are the Democrats. The same two-faced people that are doing it. Why? Not because they're Democrats, but because they're politicians. Yeah. And this is what you need to understand.
You mean the same people that have been running Baltimore for 50 years and have run it into the ground? There's virtually never been a Republican anything in Baltimore,
right,
in the city of Baltimore, and they turned one of the most beautiful cities in the United States into an absolute crap hole.
Yep.
And they've done nothing. And virtually all their legislators are black. They have a very high black population,
yes,
and they're living in poverty. So actually, if you really want to believe, if you don't want to believe it, history will prove it. I will direct you to go, if you don't believe this, long before 2022 and 50 years in Baltimore. Go on YouTube and look at Malcolm X's speech, The Ballot or the Bullet. I think it was 1964, 1965 that speech was given. And he talks about how the politicians, the mostly Democratic politicians, have been conning black America. And that was 1965, and it hasn't changed.
Right.
It hasn't changed. And that's the problem. The problem is we have these people. I'm going to give you a $250 credit. People who commute back and forth to work with gas prices, that's not even a week's gas.
That's right.
That's not even a week's worth of gas.
That's right.
So you're giving us something. You got billions of dollars squirreled away. You'll make sure that all the rich people get it. You'll make sure you'll give out all the tips. You'll do whatever you can to keep your rich friends rich. And the people in our delegation, $38,000. Apparently, nobody that represents Fall River has looked at the United States Census Bureau statistics or any statistic that says the per capita income in Fall River is 26. So fundamentally, virtually the entire city of Fall River is not eligible.
That's right. Exactly.
I mean, that's the irony of this thing. These people are such con artists. It's incredible. They just don't care. They'll spin anything and try to make it sound like it's reasonable, but it's not. It's not reasonable. It's not reasonable to just transition, and we don't care about the pain. You think Buttigieg is going to suffer any pain? You think Nancy Pelosi is going to suffer any pain?
No, her husband just paid
you
millions
think,
of dollars.
Yeah, Chuck Schumer is going to suffer any pain? You know, I mean, look, I feel their pain. I saw AOC whining about how do they expect her to live on only $174,000 a year as a congressperson. AOC, I don't know. I don't know how you can do it.
And remember,
only 174 grand.
And remember,
Apparently, she took a pay cut from her previous job as a bartender. Although I don't know a lot of bartenders that make 174 grand.
And remember,
so again, another hypocrite.
She gets that salary for the rest of her life.
And the health care.
And the health care for the rest of her life. And she doesn't have a copay on her health care.
That's right.
Imagine
and retirement.
That. And retirement.
That she doesn't pay into.
That she doesn't pay into.
Yeah, but, look, she's got it tough. She's a chronic complainer. She's whining all the time. Oh, poor me. And she's got the phony handcuffs, walking with her hands behind her back like she was handcuffed. Then she gives the fist signal to the crowd. That's what they are. They're all actors and actresses. That's why they get along so good with the actors and actresses. They're con artists. I'm sorry. I can't really feel bad for you. I know a lot of people in Fall River that would take your job right now for 100, maybe for 173, right?
Hey, right.
And the bennies, maybe for 73.
And the bennies.
And the bennies. I mean, it's just the absurdity, the unmitigated gall that these politicians have to be the way they are and complain. Oh, poor me. Poor me. But hey, that's why you got to get them out. You got to go vote. You can't let 14% of the people decide the future of your city or your country.
I was going to say the same thing. The problem is this is what you want. This is what you elect. And when you allow 14% of the population, and that's not even the population, that's 14% of the registered voters, to dictate how you're going to live your life, you've got a problem.
Yeah, that's more like 8%
right.
of the population
right.
that vote.
Exactly. So, we're not getting a true representation of the people. And if we're not getting a true representation of the people, what can we do to get a better representation of the people? Get out and vote. Get involved in local politics, because that's what's necessary. Because remember, the Democrats have controlled the politics in Fall River for a long time too, and we're not any better off. But you know what? I'm not saying the Republicans would do any better job either. So it's just the way it is. I want to thank you all for watching. Remember, stay cool, stay hydrated, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Well, you will.
I will, yeah.
I'll see you on Friday.